This is going to be a rather large announcement this morning, exclusively on the Finest Unfiltered. So without further, I'd like to welcome to the stage my good friend, Jim Walden. Jim, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, guys. How you doing? Hey, Eric.
Outstanding. Listen, we had a great conversation the other day. I was so excited. I had to call Jim back and say, I thank you. It's a pleasure having you. And I'm not kidding. Not only are you a candidate for mayor, we consider you a friend. And so, listen, that really, and you like Foo Fighters, so it's good stuff. Let's get right into it. First of all, if you could tell us about this policy and why you've gotten to the point to actually draw this up.
Yeah. So first of all, guys, thanks so much for having me on. I'm really grateful. And to your listeners, I want people to understand that I'm going to be a mayor of balance. I mean, I'm not pro or anti really anything in the sense that I want to get centrist policy and I want to get it right. And the CCRB is just not working, right? It was underfunded from its inception. It's been largely ineffective. Its mandate is way too broad, dealing with a range of serious misconduct, use of force, et cetera, all the way to what I will call fairly trivial matters. The way that it's set up is really just unfair to cops. There are tons and tons of unsubstantiated complaints that remain publicly available and essentially on the officer's record for his or her entire career. And we wouldn't accept that if it was a regular citizen. If someone, if someone was accused of a crime and was acquitted, that would be expunged from their record. And we really shouldn't be treating cops any differently. So the CCRB is not working for the police. It's not working for citizens. And I don't believe in throwing good money after bad. How many different agencies do we have that are set up to oversee the NYPD? I mean, there's so many different functions, it's hard to keep track of them all. We've got CCRB, we've got the Department of Investigation, we've got Internal Affairs, just to name three. So my idea is to scrap the CCRB. It was an idea at a time when I understood why there was a call for a civilian complaint review board. I understand that. I'm not saying that it's unimportant. What I am saying is that we need an agency that has the tools, the funding, and the expertise to get at serious forms of misconduct, not just in the NYPD, but across city agencies. So I've already announced the creation of, in my administration, of what's called the Citywide Department of Public Integrity. And today's announcement is that I want to fold the CCRB's functions into it with respect to serious misconduct. And then with other forms of alleged misconduct, I want that to be handled by the NYPD in an administrative process where police officers have a right to confidentiality, and there is a way to address behaviors that are correctable without tarnishing police unduly. I've spoken to a lot of supervisors that are former NYPD that are still very close, and they've said that if the CCRB is not the number one reason that police officers are leaving the city, it's among the top 5 for sure. And we need to change. And we need to change not just to make a fairer system for the police. That's obviously an imperative. But we also need to have an agency that's empowered to actually bring cases against cops when they engage in very, very serious misconduct. We shouldn't just be relying on the feds to bring the Abner Louima case or any number of the cases where there was clear abuse and there should have been a fast-tracked way to get those police out of the job. So that's today's announcement. The CCRB is not working. Let's replace it with a more sensible agency that's fully funded and has the tools necessary to get at the truly bad apples, to remove the stain and all of the bureaucratic red tape that goes around what will ultimately be unsubstantiated complaints against the vast majority of officers.
Jim, this is a rather large announcement, and I think you're going to get some pushback from some of the what we could say is the watchdogs on the police department, right? But however, a lot of the stuff you said is very accurate, coming from both cops and organizations that we could consider anti-police, including a watchdog called Copwatch, who actually has filed CCRBs against Eric and has went up against him. And I just want to read you a comment from Sunset Park Copwatch. Neutralize the CCRB. It's already a glorified suggestion box for bad cops. The only thing it polices is public expectation. So even Copwatch is saying that they do not believe that CCRB is an effective pathway to root out police corruption or bad behavior. So cops are leaving their job. Cops' morale is low because they're saying that the CCRB isn't properly investigating the allegations made against them. And you have people that are filing complaints saying the CCRB isn't properly handling the allegations I'm giving.
And listen, John, it's a fair point, and I'm going to stick to balance here, right? The CCRB was unfunded since its inception. Its funding went up somewhat after the Abner Louima incident, and now it's come back down. They've already publicly announced that they don't have enough staff to investigate all of the cases. So a lot of times the complaint is just sitting there without real investigation. It's got real challenges because of the staffing, because its investigators are often hired by other agencies who pay more. It's got real trouble gathering the evidence. And again, its focus is way too large, right? Many of the infractions, the complaints that are made are legitimate concerns with respect to police. But listen, police are just like everyone else. They have a bad day. Sometimes they use language they shouldn't have used. Not every single discourteous act is something that should remain on a cop's record. At the same time, we need an agency, and this is not just for the NYPD, this is for all city agencies, where we get rid of the culture of self-policing. I mean, self-policing, just as a general matter, doesn't work. We're spending millions and millions of dollars on these inspector generals. We're spending millions of dollars on the CCRB. We've got proliferating investigative functions over agencies. And what we really need to do is consolidate them in an agency that has the mandate, the expertise, and the budget to get at the bad apples and get them out of their jobs permanently, right? Because this agency with a court that's going to be dedicated to these cases is going to have the power to say, you've been found guilty and you can't have a job in city government anymore. That will be effective for those people that are proponents of real accountability for the bad police, but they can't possibly think that it's a good result to drive cops out of the city because of these highly politicized, unfair investigations when the CCRB does investigate all too often. And I've heard this directly. They're looking for evidence to corroborate the complaint, not the mitigating information or the exculpatory information. And that is not a sensible way to set up what is essentially a criminal justice function. Cops deserve due process of law as well. And you really need an agency that's got the expertise to be able to look at all of the mitigating and exculpatory evidence when they're weighing whether or not to bring criminal charges. Because make no mistake about it, for those people that say, oh, you're being easy on cops, well, tell me why it's easy to say, I'm setting up an agency that will actually prosecute bad cops, because that's what the CDPI will do. When the CDPI does its investigation and finds serious misconduct, and the police officer wants due process of law and does not want to settle the case with a non-prosecution agreement, the CDPI will file a case in this corruption court. It will be fast-tracked, and then there'll be justice at the end of the day. That is the right thing to do because it's transparent. It is real accountability, and people will be able to see it with their own eyes that there's finally a city agency with true independence from all the agencies and from City Hall, by the way, because the way that I've conceived CDPI is that as long as I get the charter revision, it will essentially replace the public advocate. So it will have the budget of the CCRB, the public advocate, the Department of Investigation, the internal functions for all of the agencies. So it'll have ample funding and it can get at the most serious misconduct. I'm sorry if my answers are too long.
No, I think your answer is
actually, guy. What can I say?
I think your answer is actually pretty eloquent. It actually addresses the issue, which we talk about often, which I think is the problematic factor with CCRB, is that these cases clearly are reverse engineered. And you said they're looking for corroborating evidence to find the police officers guilty. It's my opinion, and based on my cases, and I've seen it myself, that the cases were already determined guilt on my part and reverse engineered to find something that could fit to find guilt, rather than allowing the investigation to play out organically, whether there are mitigating factors, as you said, which is what we were talking about earlier. That's what Jonathan Darsh, if you had an opportunity to listen, from the Civilian Complaint Review Board, in his testimony, he leaves out mitigating factors. It's just a rule. Sometimes police officers do curse. Were there mitigating factors? And I think that's what Bob Holden was getting to. Was there firebombs? Would that be a mitigating factor why a police officer is not using professional language? And that's the part that they leave out. They leave out the part for human error or just actually human ability. Now, I think what's great, what impacts police officers and impacts morale is that the Civilian Complaint Review Board is often comprised of those that don't have law enforcement experience or not much experience doing investigations. Now, I think you're making leaps and bounds in your policy. You and I spoke extensively, and we talked about allegations unfounded, unsubstantiated, that really misrepresent and hurt someone's character reputation. But I also made the argument with you, and I'm really proud that you really took a deep dive in, and I can't be more appreciative that police officers don't get an opportunity to grow with substantiated complaints. So can you talk about your policy now? If someone has a substantiated complaint, how can they now come back from that and grow? And we did speak about that. If you could talk about your policy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, the way that I look at CCRB's function and with all of these other agencies that investigate cops is really kind of no different than the regular criminal justice system. You have someone that's doing a job, right? And they are accused of doing something wrong. Okay, so now what do we do with that? There are, and listen, I've known many people over the course of my career that have been well-meaning, decorated cops who had bad moments. I defended one hero, in my view, named Dustin Janko, who was at the end of his career, was on a fugitive task force, and after the fleeing fentanyl dealer put him and his partner at serious risk, he got let emotions get the best of him and kicked the guy, which was totally wrong. The guy wasn't injured, but somebody got it on videotape, and he was ultimately prosecuted. So there are times when even the best of us, and myself included, have moments where we're not our best selves. Police should be able to grow out of those situations.
You've just watched a clip from our live episode. Click the description to watch the full episode. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this.